Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. Julian Erosa versus Alex Caceres. Juicy J versus Bruce Leroy. This is one of my favorite fights on the card, and that's because probably Julian Erosa is my favorite fighter on the card. He's been in the UFC for 3 stints at this point. This is his 3rd stint. He's been knocked out in each stint, if I'm using the right word, and at this point I really hope I am. He's been knocked out of plenty. 5 knockout losses out of his 9 losses, and that doesn't include his knockout loss to Artem Lobov, which would make it 6 times he's been finished with strikes. But despite that, which, I still consider it a glaring weakness of his, but despite that, he is a problem for anybody offensively. If you're not able to get Julian Erosa out of there, he's a problem for anybody. He's a big, long, tall fighter who doesn't always fight like a big, long, tall fighter. He's a guy that insists on killing you. So if that means getting into your range with a flying knee or whatever, he'll do it. And, it's paid off. Look at his win over Nate Landwehr in the UFC. Just crushed him in a minute there. But most of the time, Julian Erosa, when he wins, it's down the stretch. He's a guy who, especially as of late, has picked up some nice third-round submissions. Darce chokes over Sean Woodson and Charles Jourdain. He's really turned a corner here, Julian Erosa. I like the fighter he's turning into. If his chin isn't going to plague him for the rest of his career, he's going to have a nice future in the UFC. If his chin falls apart, then maybe the future isn't so long. But still, I like what I see from him. He's entering his prime, and the proof is in the pudding. He's got consecutive wins over Charles Jourdain, Steven Peterson, and Hakeem Dawodu. The Peterson fight was razor thin. That was his worst win of the 3, ironically. But taking out Charles Jourdain the way he did with a 3rd-round sub was awesome. And taking out Hakeem Dawodu, or beating him comfortably via decision, was eye-opening. Julian Erosa does have, again, 28 wins, 11 TKOs, 12 submissions. His subs come 2 in round 1, 5 in round 2, and 4 in round 3, and then 1 in round 4. But he gets his submissions later, and he's proven that to be the case at the UFC level as well. He's a guy that is always dangerous with his subs, can cinch up a Darce choke, or probably a lot of different chokes with his skills and his length, out of nowhere. And I do think that is a big factor in this fight. Also, defensively, I trust Julian Erosa, his submission defense anyway. Can't say I trust his chin that much, but I trust his submission defense a lot. If you don't believe me, go watch his fight with Grant Dawson. Grant Dawson will strangle anybody in round 3, and he had every opportunity to do so against Julian Erosa, and he wasn't able to do it. Imagine being that tired, that fatigued, and this tight battle with Grant Dawson, who's just now starting to take over the fight. He did well in round 1, but it's not looking good in round 3, and that guy's a problem for anybody if he's on top, especially in round 3. And Julian Erosa survived a full mount, a back mount, a whatever, side mount. He just defended that choke and fought throughout the whole 5 minutes in a losing effort, but it was still very impressive, and it has me thinking I'm not picking anybody to submit this guy. Not even Kron Gracie, who submitted Alex Caceres. I don't know what the fuck's going on with Kron Gracie. I'd love to see him come back, but I think he's done. Anyway, Alex Caceres is 19-13 overall. He's got 3 TKO victories, 7 submissions, and 9 decisions. The 3 TKOs, though, that's what I look to in this matchup with Julian Erosa. He doesn't have 1 knockout. He's got 2 TKOs outside the UFC, which at this point is like fucking 15 years ago. And they were in rounds 2 and 3. And they were TKOs deep into the rounds. They weren't knockouts. And his 1 win in the UFC via stoppage was an eye injury over Rolando D. So Caceres hasn't produced 1 knockout that I can see. And look, that's not to knock him. I think he's a wonderful fighter. But I think it takes away a lot of his options off the table in this fight with Julian Erosa. Because Julian Erosa, again, if you don't take him out, concuss him, he's going to be fighting to the bitter end, and I consider him to be the more dangerous guy between these two. Caceres could fight very well on the outside. We've seen him fight like that plenty, and I do think he can find success against anybody because he's such a unique striker. But Julian Erosa is going to match him physically, and I think he's going to best him. Even if it went to a decision and it was largely held on the feet, Julian Erosa is the more aggressive fighter, historically. And he will be leading the dance, and I think he will be a little more reserved, as we saw in the Hakeem Dawodu fight. A controlled Julian Erosa, still a dangerous Julian Erosa. I think he comfortably wins the fight on the feet, but I think also he gets the submission. I think if this is a grueling fight, especially if Caceres is even slightly tired and it's a clinch battle like we've seen, Julian Erosa can cinch up one of those chokes, especially deeper into the fight. Caceres has been tapped 7 times. He's been tapped 4 times, I believe, or no, 3 times in round 2, twice in round 3, and twice in round 1. But he's been tapped plenty in rounds 2 and 3, and that's where Julian Erosa, I think, does his best work. So I'm taking Julian Erosa to win the fight. I really like his money line at minus 165 because it covers everything, of course. But I also played his props, his submission props, especially rounds 2 and 3 at plus 1,400 and plus 1,600 for him to win a submission. I think that's his most likely path to victory. Caceres has only been knocked out once, and it was the Francisco Rivera. Julian Erosa could knock him out, but it would have to be something big and concussive like he did with Nate Landwehr. And but I don't trust. I trust Caceres' durability overall. No doubt about it. I think if Julian Erosa gets him out of there, it's by submission or decision, which I'm waiting for that prop, submission or decision. I would play that at plus odds. But I do like the money line, minus 165, and I love the submission props. So Julian Erosa, let's go. Let's see what happens. Like, share, subscribe, all that horse shit. Check out my other videos.